Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Doesn't matter what time zone you're on. Thank you for tuning in to my opinion on Politapod. So here we go again. I guess that's the title of the video. Here we go again with the U.S. denying request from Mexico. Let's see what happens and how this works out.
Well, welcome back. Well, the United States is rejecting Mexico's request for a special water delivery to Tijuana. The State Department writes this on X. Mexico's continued shortfalls in its water deliveries under the 1944 Water Sharing Treaty are decimating American agriculture, particularly farmers in the Rio Grande Valley. As a result, today, for the first time, the U.S. will deny Mexico's non-treaty request for a special delivery channel for Colorado River water to be delivered to Tijuana. Joining me now is U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Secretary, good to have you. Thanks very much for being here.
Okay, first stoppage. First, I got to see if I can understand this, because if there's a treaty, then there shouldn't be no denials. But if they're actually asking for a special request and it's not covered in the treaty, then no.
Feels like we're in another fight with Mexico.
Well, here we go again. I was just there 2 days ago. Today I'm at the White House, obviously, but 2 days ago I was down in the Rio Grande Valley with those very farmers that you just mentioned on the program. They are absolutely decimated. It is close to, the sugar mill has closed. There were only three states in the country that were had a sugar mill. Texas has now closed ours. Now we're down to 2 states because of Mexico not living up to its part in that water treaty. We released some additional funds, thanks to Congress, to help those farmers down there. But listen, that's not a short-term fix. The fix is Mexico must live up to their side of the agreement. And hopefully we'll see some changes. I think the president is ready to really engage on this.
What did they do? They're not saying what they've done. Or I missed something. But I didn't hear anything about what Mexico did.
Well, you were also in San Juan, Texas yesterday. You did a roundtable on the challenges that farmers and ranchers are facing in the Rio Grande Valley. What specific challenges do you see, and how is it impacting their ability to do business?
Listen, they don't have water, and these are third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh generation farmers that I and Senator Cruz and Congresswoman De La Cruz met with. And for the first time in decades, in generations, in 100 years, they can't plant their crops because they don't know whether they will have the water. Okay. One farmer there, Maria, actually talked about how he normally plants 6,000 acres of citrus. He's now down to 4,000, potentially down to 2,000. And not only can they not survive, right, these farms will close, but Mexico is planting on their side of the border, Chihuahua and other places, pecan trees, other things that take a ton of water, so that they're not delivering to our farmers. They're decimating our farmers while they're building their agriculture industry and breaking the agreement under that 1944 water treaty. But no more, no more.
So it's a sharing of water, and they're not sharing. Okay, so is there any, I don't know. I mean, again, you know, some of these videos I don't know much about. I just trying to get the info on it, as, you know, we all do when we watch videos. But that's just crazy.
Okay, well, we'll be watching that one. I also want to get your take on President Trump's executive order yesterday. Of course, he signed an order dismantling the Department of Education. Secretary, is this going to impact the Department of Agriculture's ability to run the national school lunch program?
No, it will not. And listen, I worked with the president in the first term here at the White House.
I think it's on a federal level. I think it's on a federal level. From what I understand, it's on a federal level. If I'm wrong, please put it down in the comments and, you know, correct it. But I think that the school thing is on the federal level, and he's giving the thing back to the states to make the decisions. It's not that he's closing down the whole education board. But some people saying, I've seen people saying, oh, he's closing the schools, he's closing down all the colleges, where are our kids going to go? That's not people looking to, they look on the surface. Everybody looks on the surface of things, but, you know, you do a little digging and you find out. But from what I understand, it's just on a federal level. It's just so the federals can't make the decision for the schools, and they're giving the power back to the states and the states alone.
In his West Wing, on his West Wing crew, And then in the interim, the 4 years in the interim, obviously launched the America First Policy Institute. Education has always been a massive part of this president's vision on how we take the country back. But most of that was how we return that to the states, how we let the states and the locals under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, where it should be, how we let them run their own education program. As it relates to U.S.
There you have it. There you have it.
USDA and our school lunch program, that is a USDA program. It will continue. We're going to refine it. We're going to reform it. We're going to better align it to make sure it's achieving its stated goals, which, as we're now realizing, so much of the federal government is not achieving their stated goals, their original mission. But yeah, that will not affect the work in the school lunch programs. And I think what Secretary McMahon is doing with her leadership there in implementing the president's vision is just a game changer for education in this country.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly many states look forward to it. They feel that they could do a better job than the bureaucracy of the federal government. But you're facing a deadline today, the Agricultural Department facing a deadline today to release $10 billion in economic assistance for farmers. Secretary, you recently held a roundtable in Georgia. You were talking about how the president's tariffs will impact farmers and ranchers there. We've got new Fox News polls show that voters have major doubts about the tariffs. Nearly 70% say that they will make products more expensive. A majority thinks the tariffs will hurt the economy and the jobs market. Are you expecting agricultural products to be more expensive as a result of tariffs, Secretary?
Tariffs have been around since tariffs. So not everybody talks about tariffs all the time. So the people that didn't know anything about tariffs are just now hearing them for the first time. And they think, oh, that they're just now happening. Tariffs are just now happening. But that's not the case. They've been around forever, just presidents and Congress. Nobody really talks about them. That's why a lot of people are frantic. There's a lot of things that the politicians do not talk about to the public because of whatever reason. We're not going to get into that rabbit hole, but tariffs have been around since the beginning of however long. But they're just not starting now. Donald Trump did not create tariffs.
This president's vision of tariffs being such an important part of his toolkit as he begins to realign the economy to put America first, to put our men and women, our families first. Everybody knows, and when they voted in November of 2024, they knew that's what they were voting for. And so as we see the president begin to roll out, as we see him hold accountable Canada with their 250% tariffs on our dairy products, as they see him hold accountable Mexico, China, all of these countries where
the Canada has been doing that for a very long time. No one's ever talked about it.
You know, we have a 5% on our end when our products go out. They've got 15%, 3 times. This is on average on their end when their products come in. It's not fair, and it's got to be equalized as we move toward more free trade. Now, the president has been very clear, as has Secretary Lutnick, that there may be an interim period as we're readjusting the entire economy. But listen, real change takes disruption. Real transformation takes these harder decisions, and no one's willing to do that except now President Trump is. So obviously 100% behind it. I am talking to farmers every single day. They know that the president has their back. They know and are prepared for potentially, you know, an interim period as we move toward what the president has said is the greatest age of prosperity, not just for all Americans, but for our farmers and our ranchers as well.
So the people that complain about these tariffs are most of the people that it doesn't really have anything that doesn't affect them. Like the farmers, it affects them. You know, the materials that come in for these companies to produce their products, it affects them. It'll go down to the cost that they raise the cost of the products and stuff, and it passes down to the people, which by the time that happens, it's just it's a little. I'm not sure how it goes, but as far as I understand, it's just the raise a little bit until the tariff it works itself out. That's what I understand. But a lot of people that are complaining about it, if you don't produce products or anything like that, where the tariff really, would make a difference in your life or in your business or whatever, a lot of people are just, and then there's some people that want to complain about the tariffs just to complain about it, or just use talking points. People could just be real with what they want to complain about. Yeah, the cost of this and the cost of that is up. We're all feeling the same cost, so why fight with someone that has a different view than you do when we're all in the same? I don't get it. I'm not one of those type of people. You can say whatever you want to, feel whatever you want to feel. You're not bothering me with your words. You're not affecting my life in that manner unless I allow it to affect me. So just, my advice would be to people, just stay positive in all of this, and make the best of it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I don't think anybody understood the significant difference in tariffs. I mean, I don't think people realized a 200 tariff was there while we were giving a much lower one, or that we're at 5% and somebody else is at 15%. So the president has certainly spotlighted an important issue there. And as you say, you want to make an omelet, you got to, crack some eggs. Speaking of eggs, right. You held a press conference yesterday. See how I did that?
No pun intended. That was actually excellent, Maria.
Thank you.
March prices of eggs. February prices of eggs. January prices of eggs. Okay. All right.
You talked about the response to the bird flu outbreak yesterday and the price of eggs. You say that the agency is ramping up eggs imports from South Korea and Turkey. The price of eggs dropping more than $3 this month compared to last month. Secretary, tell us about this. Are you expecting that the more eggs on the market will mean prices go lower and lower from here?
We are very hopeful. And in fact, just in case this came up,
Okay, my take on the egg bit, it's just them doing it. There is no difference in the thing that kills the price or anything like that. The chickens are still producing the same eggs, It's just a what do you call it? A hostage situation. You know what I mean? I don't know. They're just doing the eggs. It's telling us that there's something wrong with the bird flu and the chicken and all that stuff. And people have questions, but none of those questions will get answered. But we have a national egg shortage. Just like we had a chicken wing shortage, but no shortage on chickens. I mean, all this is just used to put fear into people. That's all it is. It's just used I believe it's used for that.
I brought a chart for you. You can see the cost of eggs and how it has increased and increased and increased. And then as the president began to roll out the vision and our plan about 3 weeks ago, you can see almost a 50%, I think 53% decrease in the cost of eggs in just the last 3.5 weeks. Listen,
Roll out a plan. She just said it right there. As the president rolled out the plan, the cost of the eggs came down. But if it was the bird flu, then him rolling out a plan wouldn't have no effect on that. That's just what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Not only the importation of eggs from Turkey and South Korea for the short term, we're also talking to other countries. I was on a couple phone calls yesterday to potentially bring in some other eggs imported for the short term to help bring those costs down.
What is wrong with If our eggs are up, then everybody else's eggs are up, right? So why are we importing eggs if the cost is like that? Wouldn't that drive the cost up more because we have to import them? No, they're not cheaper because we have to import them. They're going to cost more if we have to import them. So we should figure out how to strengthen our production of eggs here in the United States. Whatever we got to figure out, let's figure that out. Okay, you caused it by the bird flu, okay, whatever. So, but imported eggs, man, that's just saying we don't do anything for ourselves.
But the long term, we're repopulating the cold birds a lot more quickly. We are investing in biosecurity to lock the barns down, which is proven to be the most important solution to keeping the avian bird flu out. But listen, we're also deregulating. I mean, it's not just the president's vision of deregulating the entire economy, getting government off the backs of our people, the Doge effort. It's also deregulating in the agriculture industry. Earlier this week, we announced new line speeds for chickens for our poultry producers, which probably for most of your viewers, they don't know what that means. But what it means for our poultry producers is less government. They can be.
Hold the eggs hostage while you regulate the farmers. That's what it is. Hold the eggs hostage while you regulate the farmers. They did that with the beef. They had a whole bunch of look it up. They had a whole bunch of beef. Cows were killed. Nobody talked about it, and I guarantee you, this time next year, nobody's going to be bringing this up. There's a lot of things that happen that nobody talks about. It passes like the wind.
Be more efficient and more effective in their production for Americans. Long-term research into therapeutics, vaccines, etc. We had a very bold plan that we released.
Well, you can't slip that in there. Vaccines for what? The animals? Oh my God! This is hold the eggs hostage while you regulate the farmers and destroy the food
3 or 4 weeks ago, and the market reacted to that for multiples of reasons. So we're really glad to see the cost of eggs coming down for that single mom in Detroit who's trying to figure out how she's going to make ends meet, especially under the last Biden economy.
Yeah.
Eggs are a low-cost, nutritious way to feed your family. I've got 4 teenagers, I understand. So it's a bit of good news as the president keeps effectuating this vision for bringing America back.
Oh, sorry, I was a little passionate about this topic here in that, in some of those things, because a lot of those things to me just don't make sense. She slipped in there vaccines for the vaccines. Okay, if you're talking about the food, you're not giving the farmers vaccines to make the eggs go, to bring down the price of the eggs. You're talking about vaccinating the chickens, the animals for the bird flu or whatever not. So they just, I honestly think it's a heist. It's a heist to control the farmers. I mean, there's so many regulations in there. It's very hard for somebody to become a farmer nowadays. So many darn regulations. You can't just go get some land and a couple animals and start your farm. You can't do that anymore. Oh, my goodness. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and, we'll go from there. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.